Ukraine's military says its troops have raised the national flag on Snake Island. Now, that is the first time Kyiv has had presence there since Russian forces took over that island at the start of the war. The defenders say there is a message on the flag for Moscow, and it reads, "Remember, Russian warship Snake Island is Ukraine." Well, that's a reference to the invader ship demanding surrender from Ukrainian troops back in February. But Russia claims that its warplane struck Snake Island shortly after the defenders raised their flag. Moscow says its attack killed an unspecified number of Ukrainian troops. It pulled troops from the area last week, calling it a gesture of goodwill. But Kyiv says it forced them out with artillery and missile strikes. On the eastern front lines, Russia seems to be taking a pause as it regroups for a renewed assault on the Donetsk region. British intelligence says the invaders have made few advances this week, while heavy shelling does continue along the edges of occupied territory. Donetsk regional governor says at least 7 civilians have been killed in the last 24 hours. Kyiv believes the invaders are moving more units into the neighboring Luhansk region to consolidate control there. Russia last week captured all of Luhansk after taking over the city of Lysychansk, which was the defenders' last holdout. More on this, John Gambrell joins us live from Lviv. John, as Russian forces prepare their offensive on Donetsk, how can we expect the upcoming conflicts to look like?
We're really seeing a different war than we saw at the beginning in February, where Moscow initially tried to rush at Kiev and perform a so-called decapitation strike, where Moscow sent paratroopers, tanks, fired missiles, and launched aircraft aiming to try to topple Ukraine's democratically elected government. Now, as we all know, Ukraine was able to blunt that assault and push the Russians back. Now in the east, what we see is a very different kind of warfare, one that is based primarily on artillery strikes. These are long-range shelling missile strikes that see the Russians try to push forward kilometer by kilometer, block by block in eastern Ukraine. Now, this is really bloody fighting. This is slow fighting. And we're seeing Russia, as well as Ukraine, try to rearm and regroup as this warfare changes. Now, yesterday we saw the Russian Duma come forward with new laws that put the Russian economy on more of a war footing, allowing workers in defense industries to work overtime, as well as allowing the Russian military to ask the defense industries for more different kinds of weapons. Now, this combined with sort of the slow-paced, artillery-based fighting that we're seeing suggests that this war is going to grind on for months more.
John, you mentioned Ukraine managing to push back against the Russian offensive, and they have managed to do so because of weapons supplied from the West. The President Volodymyr Zelensky has now said Western-supplied artillery finally making or having a tangible effect on the battlefield. What do you know about this?
That's absolutely right. Last night, President Zelensky in his nightly address said that these artillery systems provided by the Ukrainian military, or provided to the Ukrainian military, rather, had really been, quote, powerful. Now, he didn't describe too much exactly what they've been doing, other to say that they had been targeting Russian logistical depots and striking hits. This comes a couple of weeks after the United States began providing these so-called HIMARS units. These HIMARS units are basically rockets on the backs of trucks that allow the Ukrainians to do so-called scoot and shoot missions, where they drive up to a camouflage location, fire these missiles out, and the missiles strike targets as far away as 65 kilometers. That's far more distance than they have with their traditional artillery units. Now, then after that, the Ukrainians are able to drive away quickly without being targeted by Russian retaliatory fire. Now, the Ukrainians haven't really provided too much more information about this, but the American military in the last couple of days have said that the Ukrainians have used these HIMARS systems to strike Russian command posts. Russia hasn't acknowledged this, but this weapon apparently is providing the Ukrainians a new edge in the fighting.
Thanks for that. John Gambrell speaking to us there from Lviv.